And I think the situation was like I was asked to follow up with a bunch of organizations. It was like early days learning how to do tasks, and I had a meeting with Jacob after, and he was like, "Oh, how did it go?" I was like, "Good. I didn't do it. I just didn't do it," and I pretended like I did, and then he fully called me on my bullshit and was like, "Oh, really? Show me."
Hey everyone, once again, thank you for joining another episode of the Campus Manager podcast series. We're here today with Lauren, our special guest. What's up, Lauren? How are you
Hey,
doing?
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Same here as well. And we'll get into all of your experience as a campus manager. But before that, for people who don't know you out there, who are you? Where did you go to school? How long were you a CM from? And what are you doing today?
Cool. Yeah. I'm Lauren, and I currently work at a company called Whatnot, where right now I'm helping lead our expansion into Canada, which has been fun. Before
Nice.
that, I co founded a tech startup, and before that, I was a campus manager at Fresh Prince when I was at the university at Buffalo.
SUNY Buffalo, correct?
Yeah, SUNY
Um,
Buffalo in 2016 is when I started. 2016, I graduated in 2020, so it's been like 10 years
wow.
since
How
20.
was graduating in March of 2020? I can't even imagine.
It was very crazy. We had like a slideshow. That was my graduation. I got like a little slide on
Yeah.
screen. It feels like so long ago though, because it kind of was. It's already 6 years.
Right? It already has been. Indeed, yeah, for sure. But it still feels like, it was yesterday as well, because of how traumatic it was for all of us. But we're here today, way past all of that. And you were a campus manager at SUNY Buffalo, I think for 3 years and change, if I'm not mistaken. So a rare, long journey as a campus manager. Usually you see an average of like 1.5 years, 2 years, but 3.5 years. Um, first of all, like take me back to Lauren at SUNY Buffalo before you became a CM. Who are you, and why did you decide to join Fresh Prince and become a campus manager?
Yeah, Buffalo Lauren. It feels like so long ago.
So long too, even longer.
I know. I guess there honestly wasn't a long time where I was just Buffalo Lauren because Fresh Prince came in like quite early. I was a freshman when I started doing Fresh Prince. I was in
Sure.
a sorority called DeFi, and my Fresh Prince origin story is kind of ridiculous. I got a Facebook message from, I don't remember what his name was, but I got a Facebook message from this guy, and I was like, oh my God, he's sliding into my DMs. He was really cute, and he was fully just trying to recruit me because I'm sure he was getting some sort of incentive to bring on campus managers. He was like it was like my best friend's cousin's friend from Bucknell. I didn't even go to the school, so I was like, whatever. He was cute, so I gave it a chance, and I actually opened the message, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to learn more about Fresh Prince?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Sure. Tell me more. Tell
Um,
me everything you got.
exactly. And turns out he wasn't hitting on me, and I wound up getting in touch with Jacob and had a call with Jacob, and it was like very serious but goofy at the same time, and I really liked the energy.
In
And
true Jacob style, yeah.
yes, it was like
Jacob, one of our founders. For people who
yes,
don't know, Jacob is one of our founders of Fresh Prince.
yes. It was early days too, so I think it was like very scrappy energy. He actually like my first experience, I guess, becoming a campus manager. We went through this. Well, first off, I loved the combo that I had with him, loved the energy. Then he was like, okay, next steps would be going through this, I guess, like training program. So I went through this training program, and he said, like, at the end of this training program, you'll have the option to take $100 and walk away with it or take the job. And I don't know what kind of like method, it had to be some sort of, I don't know, he learned it in business class or something, some sort of like reverse psychology. I don't know, but obviously I took the job after going through it because we're having this conversation today. But whatever it was, it worked. It was very funny though. He was like, he can give you $100 cash, and obviously as a freshman in college, $100 is so much money. So I
That's
was
a couple of weekends worth of
like, I know,
outings at bars, maybe even more back
oh,
then.
more than that, yeah, back in the day.
That's incredible, Lauren, because as you know, like I run the training team today for our campus managers nationwide, and it's been what, like 4 years now that I've been in the company, and I didn't know that we did this back then, where we offered people money as they graduated training to give them that option. I actually think it's a great idea. I'm not saying I'm going to implement it tomorrow, but I think it really shows when someone is really about the role and isn't going to be easily checked out when they start and things get a little bit more difficult. I think that's the whole rationale behind it, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure, for sure. It was like a test. I was like, I think I passed it.
Yeah, you did. Definitely did. So went through training, right? Who were you working with at the time? Who was your mentor at Fresh Prince, and how were these first few weeks for you post training?
I mean, again, this was so long ago. I don't remember like the exact details, I suppose, but I actually worked directly with Jacob at the time. The company was super small, so he was my
Sure.
mentor manager for the first, I want to say, year or so, and then Jeremy came in. Who he, I don't think he works at Fresh Prince anymore, but he was my manager after that through the rest of my time with Fresh Prince. First, it was working with Jacob, then it was working with Jeremy. Um, both different experiences. I feel like I learned different things from both of them because it was also very different times in Fresh Prince career. And like I think
Hmm.
being there so early stage with Fresh Prince, it really like I had such exposure to like a true beginning of a startup that became so successful. Now there are so many campus managers and so many different schools involved. Um, so like the working with Jacob was very much like scrappy. He's trying to figure it out, but I'm also trying to figure it out. We're all trying to figure it out together, but like the hustle and the energy was so there. And then working with Jeremy, I feel like that was after then they started actually hiring what do we call them, business development managers,
BDMs, yep.
yes, BDMs. So that's when they started actually hiring BDMs, and there was like a more structured day to day, and we had more resources, which was really cool to see too. So I kind of had like both stages.
Yeah. And when you talk about that energy and hustle, like, can you describe a little bit more of that? Like, how did that feel to you, especially working with Jacob? Because I know you mentioned him, the energy that he had and how he was trying to figure things out with you together because it was very early in Fresh Prince's lifespan. In real terms, how did that feel to you? And was that really what kept you going? Was there something else that really Jacob taught you that ultimately, gave you the courage to keep going and to persist and to succeed eventually in the role?
Yeah, I mean, I think I learned so many invaluable things from Jacob and everyone that I even spoke to at Fresh Prince. But the biggest thing, to go back to that like energy, so to say,
Hmm.
it gave me the first taste of like young people doing something big on their own terms, and it wasn't like this straightforward path where you go into this corporate job and then which there's nothing wrong. I mean, now I'm essentially in a corporate job now. But it was just seeing these people who were so young do something that's felt so big and so spread out across from, it wasn't just their college campus. It wasn't just their city. It was across the entire country. And they were able to like reach all of these people, and how human, like talking to Yolite and Josh and Jacob, all of them were just so like chill and goofy. And again, like young, I think the fact that they were so young and starting this was just so inspiring, saying like, okay, I'm a college kid and in a few years I could be doing something like this too and have that same like cool energy. I don't know, I thought they were just the coolest people, and I was so like, wow, I want to be them.
Yeah. And, not to spoil it here, but ultimately you ended up doing something very similar as a postgraduate on your own. I'll get to that in just a bit. I know 3.5 years is worth, is not really easy to summarize in just a few sentences, but like aside from selling custom apparel, right, which you obviously became very good at SUNY Buffalo, what were you actually learning beyond that? Right? Like top three things that you were like, I wasn't really expecting this job to be about this. And this is a much more valuable lesson than learning how to sell t-shirts.
Yeah, I think I really truly feel like I learned so much, but the top three things: one, communication slash people skills, which I think is the most important skill that I learned and was like forced to learn during my time as a CM, and that I've taken with me through every single step post college and even just like day to day relationships. Second would be how to handle rejection. And third would be how to follow up and not like give up if there's a no. Like a no doesn't always mean a no, and you can kind of keep nagging someone until you get a yes. And sometimes you never get a no, and that's okay too. But as long as you've tried and like given it your all, so to say, then you're golden. So I think those are like the three things: like following up, communication, and dealing with
Relationships.
rejection. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And as, again, a person who is very much into the training side of things at Fresh Prince for campus managers, you kind of summarize what we try to teach in our training program as well. So the importance of building relationships and not being afraid of rejection and being persistent enough where people will give you an opportunity. And these are very, very difficult things for like an 18, 19-year-old to wrap their heads around. And obviously, you were able to figure that out. And that gave you a lot of momentum, I'm sure, going into graduation and stepping away from school. And walk me through that moment, right? That month, that's 2 months where you're trying to figure out what you're going to do after school. how did the idea ultimately of opening up your own tech startup come about? And talk to us about what you did there as well.
Yeah, so I actually it wasn't a very straightforward path at all.
Sure,
I
not surprising.
yeah, nothing's ever straightforward. So I graduated college, like I said, in 2020. First job I was able to get was a COVID contact tracer. So I was actually like the person who would call you to say like someone in your circle has COVID and you were exposed, so now you have to quarantine. That was me. If you ever got a call,
Was that in New York City?
yes, in New York State. So if
I
anyone
remember getting those calls. Yeah, you might have called me
it
sometime.
might have been me. Yeah, it was very hard to. No one was really hiring during
No.
COVID. So that was the job I wound up getting. It was not something necessarily that I was passionate about, but I was making money and it was remote and it was flexible, so I was happy to an extent. But I always thought like, okay, this isn't really where I want to be. I was kind of applying to jobs here and there. Nothing was really hitting, and then I also knew I always wanted to travel. I've always had like the itch to just see things. So I wound up quitting contact tracing after saving a bunch of money because I literally wasn't doing anything but sitting in my parents' house. So I was able to save. Traveled for a few months, met a ton of people from a lot of different places, learned that freelance work and remote nomad living was a thing. And I was like, oh, okay, if they can do it, I can do it. So I wound up connecting with this post grad freelance site called Pangea, which was really game changing for me. I wound up finding a ton of different clients, and I was just like, I want any and all experience. So I did like PR for authors. I worked for a AI company. I worked with, who else did I work with? A few different, just like I worked with a roofer from Texas. There were like so many random people, and I was doing all kinds of I wanted to like,
The diversity, right?
yes,
In the jobs that you were doing
yes, I
remotely
wanted to
while being able
work
to like meet people everywhere
my,
and travel.
yes, exactly. I wanted to like work my entrepreneurial muscle while still being able to work remote. So at this time when I was doing this is when I actually met my future co-founder. She had just left her Y Combinator program. She was a graduate. She graduated YC in 2019. No, I guess 2020. I actually don't. I should know this, but I don't. So whatever. um, Met her because she was one of my clients. I was helping her with what her original idea was, and
Mhm.
ultimately was helping her with just general business development stuff. And ultimately we knew, okay, like we need to pivot, like can we think of a new idea that this company can turn into? And that's kind of where I came in, and we co-founded this new idea, which was Dressed, which was a peer-to-peer dress rental app. And that's how it came in. So it wasn't like I graduated college and I was like, I'm going to start a business. It was kind of like, I don't want to do contact tracing, so what else can I do, and where can these different people that I meet and experiences that I have lead me? So it ultimately led me to Capri, who was my co-founder. And yeah, from there we did a lot. We were both non-technical, so that was a very interesting experience,
Yeah.
being in developers and having to fundraise to pay for developers. And um, ultimately, this is what Jacob said actually when I just saw him again at this dinner. He was like, "You successfully failed." So exactly, we successfully failed. It was a success in terms of I learned so much during the experience, but ultimately, at the end of the day, didn't work out. We ran out of money, but I wouldn't change it for the world. And then yeah, that's where Whatnot comes in after where I work now.
Yeah, and I want to learn more about your experience as a founder. But in the context of how do you think being a campus manager made you more confident in your abilities to do that? Is there a connection there? What things did you didn't really know that you had in you, right? Until you were in those shoes as a founder of a tech startup, and you were like, "Wow, I learned this when I was a campus manager. This is a super useful skill to have right now." Is there anything like that that comes to mind? And any other things that you thought were big connection points between your two experiences?
Yeah, I think probably, I mean, outside of the skills that I mentioned before that I think have, I use those in everyday life. And I truly, truly mean it when I say I learned those as a campus manager. As a college student, I would not have had that experience without being
Mm,
a campus manager. So outside of those, I'd say just like generally confidence. Like I think Fresh Prince gave me this like confidence that I've already been responsible for outcomes, right? Like being a campus manager, you are responsible for outcomes. And I'd already heard no a million times from different organizations and outreach. I already learned how to figure things out without a playbook as well, right? Like I started at Fresh Prince pretty early on in the game. And even today, as a Fresh Prince campus manager, you're figuring it out. There's kind of that like figure it out mentality. And yeah, I mean, starting a company definitely felt scary, but it definitely also didn't feel impossible because I've kind of felt that same feeling or energy before in my time in college.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point on the owning outcomes part, right? That's something that, unless you have been responsible for that before, nothing really that you can do will prepare you for then being responsible for that later on. It's that, pressure of being a founder, of pressure of being a campus manager. Did you feel a lot of parallels between those two as well? Can you walk me through an experience that you were feeling a lot of pressure as a campus manager, that then you were like, well, as a founder, this feels very similar to what I experienced back then?
Yeah, I think generally pitching, I still get nervous today when I have to pitch. I have to like, do some deep breaths because it's not even that I'm uncomfortable with rejection at this point. I'm just sometimes, I don't know, it's just stuck with me. I just get nervous to pitch.
Well, I think it's normal.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. You
it's
talk to
exposing yourself. Yes.
exactly. You're exposing yourself. I mean, I talk to people at Whatnot who are on the sales team, and they do cold calls all day, and they still have to like hype themselves up to do cold calls. So just the being nervous to pitch, like pitching a sorority, pitching an investor, pitching a seller at Whatnot. It's all that same feeling, and you're kind of just like trying to understand what matters to another person and communicate why or how you can help them. It's all the same muscle. Like it's the same, not the same outcome, but the same method, I guess, which
Sure.
used as a campus manager, as a founder, as a freelancer, as a Whatnot employee. Yeah.
I'm curious, what did you do to hype yourself up before pitching a sorority back then? Did you have any go-to exercises? Or you probably prepped a lot and you knew your stuff, but going into a big VIP client meeting, for example, like anything specific you did that helped you out?
I can't remember like a specific time, but I know definitely with some in-person meetings, my dad taught me this. He took like one time, I think he had to present in front of a bunch of people, and he said he went into the bathroom and just started like shaking everywhere. And now I do this before any interview, I mean, now not every time I talk to a lot of people all day, so I'm not just like shaking around the entire.
Yeah, for the audience, it's Lauren is lifting her arms and just shaking herself, just because this is both a visual and audio medium.
Yeah, yeah. Do a little like moment, like spaz a little bit.
Like literally shake it off.
Yeah, exactly. Shake it out. Like, your nerves live in your body, and sometimes you got to shake the nerves out.
Shout out to your dad. Shout out to your dad for all the great advice he's given you.
Yes.
Today, Lauren, moving on to where you are today at Whatnot. Um, what parts of campus? Because tell us about your role at Whatnot. You mentioned expansion team. More specifically, what are you doing, and what parts of the CM role show up still in your work today at Whatnot?
Yeah, yeah. That's a great question. So currently I'm working on expanding the business to Canada. So we're primarily in the US, but we also have sellers and categories across the world, in Europe, in Asia. We launched in Australia, currently launching Canada. My job prior to working on Canada, I was launching individual categories. So it's kind of like the startup within the startup that is Whatnot. So like taking a category for I guess I'll rewind for a second. Whatnot is a live stream marketplace because a lot of people probably have no idea what Whatnot is. We're a live stream shopping place, really big in the Pokemon card space, sports cards, basically anything collectible. We're quite big there, but we're expanding into and have now expanded for a while into other categories. So my job is looking at, where is organic traction happening on the app? Are sellers popping up that are selling in the plant community, for example? And that was the first
Mm-hmm.
category that I launched was houseplants. And my job is to bring sellers in, bring buyers in, manage the sellers, decide like, can we staff an entire Whatnot employee team to this category? Can we actually make it work? Is it worth it? Stuff like that. So anyway, that's
You're like, is it a big enough niche, right, that we can actually make it a
exactly.
whole department here? Yeah.
Yes. So I'd say I'm sort of losing the original question that you asked.
No, what parts of the role showed up in of the CM role more specifically show up and still show up in your work in the expansion team at Whatnot?
Yeah, again, I think I feel somewhat repetitive, but my job today is very much building relationships and helping grow a business, which was essentially my job as a campus manager, was building relationships and growing a business. So it's that same muscle. It's a lot of understanding people, communicating clearly, handling setbacks, knowing when to pivot, negotiating, staying accountable. And again, all of those things I did as a campus manager, and all of those things I'm still doing to this day. So I really, so many different aspects of my job right now, I have been working that muscle since college.
Moving on, just to reflect once again on the campus manager experience, and then we'll let you go here, Lauren. Um, you were there for a while. You did it for 3.5 years. And I'm sure you had peers alongside at SUNY Buffalo, maybe at other schools that were doing the same thing, that maybe were as successful as you were, and maybe some others weren't as successful as you. What attributes and what kind of person do you think the campus manager role is truly designed for? There's someone out there who's listening to this episode and is considering joining the team. Tell them if they're that kind of person and what kind of person really would thrive in this role as a student.
Yeah, I think someone who is personable and flexible are probably like the two biggest things. Personable meaning not necessarily having the perfect communication skills or knowing how to negotiate with someone. Like that's again a muscle that you build, but someone who is personable in the sense that you can connect well enough with people. And I do think that this is something that you can work on and continue to learn. But I think I like to chat with people and I like to yap, so that it made it a lot easier for me to come in as a campus manager, because a lot of your job is communication and talking to other organizations and pitching to different people and working with a lot of different types of people, right? Like it's not necessarily all sororities and fraternities. There's a lot of other businesses and organizations and people that you can work with in this job. So someone who's excited by the thought of getting to meet and talk to and communicate with different types of people. And then, yeah, on the flexibility aspect, at the end of the day, like Jacob said in the beginning, like this is a hard job. It's not something that you're just going to take and coast by. It's something that you need to dedicate time to and want to learn, and like come in wanting to work all of those muscles that I keep mentioning. I feel like I'm so strong now that I've done all this muscle. Um, I think, yeah, the flexibility as a full-time student, right? Like you have classes, you want to get good grades, you also want to have a social life, you also want to do all of the things and take a break. But having, I guess, the like work ethic or want or drive to learn all of these things while being a college student is probably one of the best things that I've ever done. But you do have to like want it, because otherwise it's just going to feel like homework and miserable. And at times it
Sure.
absolutely did. Like I fully at times was like, this feels like homework. I don't want to have my meeting with Jeremy. I don't want to have my meeting with Jacob, whatever. But you'll have days like that sometimes over the years. But overall, you kind of you need to want to like learn something and kind of treat it like a learning experience, which it is.
Yeah. Do you think that is like what you underestimated the most about the role, or what people generally underestimate the most about the role, is how flexible do you need to be, and also how personable you need to be? Because like you didn't mention that you need to be a good salesperson. You didn't mention you need to be good at designing or at having an eye for trends and fashion. You just said flexibility and personality. Is that what you expected, and did you ever underestimate that initially in the role?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest one big thing that came out of Fresh Prince too is that like I can do more than I ever thought that I could or would. I did not come into this thinking I'm a salesperson. I want to go into sales. I want to pitch. I want to do design. Those are all things that I think you can learn, again, if you have the mindset of wanting to learn. I don't think that you need to be like, everyone here is, or almost everyone here, I think, is a college student at the end of the day. So you likely don't have any kind of professional experience prior to this. It's okay if this is your first professional experience. Like you don't have to have an internship. You don't have to, whatever. I really think like the things that you need to have or be open to is like the communication and willingness to learn, because all of those skills are things that you can learn. I don't think that it's like you need to be a salesperson or you need to have an eye for design and fashion. I mean, I think those are all a plus, but I think if you want to soak in this experience like full on, you'll learn those things and it'll kind of come naturally throughout your time.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. The foundational pieces are what you mentioned. And then the things that you can learn throughout the experience will just make it more worthwhile, or like will probably make it more successful as well. But ultimately, it does come down to like how badly do you want it, and do you have kind of like that personal personality and personable skills that will make people want to work with you and talk with you and be your friend and be your associate in their journeys to getting merged for their organizations. But that's all great, Lauren, and we're almost done here with you. Really appreciated our chat. We're going to close out with lightning round questions, just rapid fire, first thing that comes to thought, and we will close it out. What was your hardest week as a campus manager?
Fast answer or long answer? Fast answer is probably just, I feel like I have this one specific horrible moment in my head, and I'm just gonna say it anyway. It was like very early on, and I think the situation was like I was asked to follow up with a bunch of organizations. It was like early days learning how to do tasks, and I had a meeting with Jacob after, and he was like, "Oh, how did it go?" I was like, "Good, I didn't do it. I just didn't do it," and I pretended like I did, and then he fully called me on my bullshit and was like, "Oh, really? Show me." And I was like rambling. I was like, "Oh wait, my phone's like not working." It was, I literally want to cringe out of my skin thinking about it. Like I still think about it to this day. And I come to every single meeting of my life prepared now ever since that. But I think that was just a hard pill to swallow. Is, one, don't lie if you didn't do something, be honest, and two, come prepared. Yeah, I had.
Yeah, it's funny that I asked you the hardest week, and you said one specific moment that probably lasted and felt very terribly for an entire week, if not longer than that. still, still cringing right now.
Yep. I was in the parking lot of like my town pool at the time. Like I remember exactly where I was. It was so horrible. Sorry.
Shout out Jacob for calling her out and now making her be prepped for every single one of her meetings.
Yeah.
One founder lesson that you already knew because of the campus manager role.
Yeah, rejection is not personal. I think that was the biggest thing. You get a lot of no's as a campus manager. You get a lot of no's and as a founder.
Most underrated skill in college?
Probably following up. I think most opportunities are not won in the first conversation. If you keep going, you might get there, and it's okay if you don't.
Finish the sentence. Being a campus manager is really about?
I think learning that you're capable than a lot more than you thought you were.
Wow. That is a good answer and a very deep one. I don't think we've gotten that before. Excellent, Lauren. Thank you so much. It was a really fun chat. I really, really appreciate it. Good luck at Whatnot. Hope to see you around in New York sometime. And then, yeah, you have a good rest of your day.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah.